What's up, everyone? Okay, this is actually a first for my channel of doing any sort of like coverage on something that might be controversial. And bear with me, there's a reason that I'm kind of breaking my rule and choosing to give my thoughts on this article. So this is an article about the interview that is coming out in the latest issue of Empire magazine. Now, this isn't the full article, but there are some snippets and pieces of it that I just want to share some thoughts on. So this is, if you didn't know, the Last Jedi is in its 5th year, so it's been out 5 years almost, and so Empire Magazine did a interview with Rian Johnson, and you've probably already seen a lot of stuff on it and kinda his thoughts, and knowing that the summary of this is that he is still very proud, in fact, even more proud of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. That's the headline of this article, nothing groundbreaking there. Uh, but this little snippet from Empire kinda gives a little insight into Luke, and I I just wanted to share in the most civil way, my thoughts on Luke in the sequels. I mean, you can see Luke back there, you can see Luke on my sweatshirt, which this is a Star Wars Corner official merch. So if you want to show the channel some love, there you go. But obviously, Luke is one of my favorites, and I just wanted to kind of give my thoughts on what Ryan Johnson says about Luke Skywalker in this article. So let's jump in. Long intro there. Let's do this. So it goes, if there's a line of dialogue in The Last Jedi that feels particularly apt, it's one spoken by Luke Skywalker. This is not going to go the way you think. Obviously, he says that to Rey as she's dead set on going and confronting Kylo Ren. Writer director Rian Johnson's middle chapter in the sequel trilogy was a rich, adventurous, mythical tale continuing the stories of Rey, Kylo Ren, Finn, and Poe Dameron that also dug deep into the soul of Luke Skywalker himself decades after the triumphant finale of The Return of the Jedi. Along the way, it contained all kinds of surprises, developing the threads of The Force Awakens in fresh and unexpected ways. Okay, my first thought, it's not a groundbreaking thought here, but it's debatable whether or not, The Last Jedi developed the threads of The Force Awakens or simply just killed off the threads, and I'm speaking pretty literally. Snoke, that was a thread of The Force Awakens that many were excited about, and it was literally killed off in The Last Jedi, which goes back to Ryan Johnson's, Luke Skywalker's line, "This is not going to go the way you think." Um, but it was in fresh and unexpected ways. It was a box office smash, pulling in 1.3 billion worldwide. Also challenged its audience in ways that some weren't quite prepared for at the time. Okay, here's what I want to say, and keep the comments civil here of this video, but The Last Jedi was not one of my favorites. It's one of my least favorite, and that is because, according to this article, I wasn't prepared for the ways that it would challenge me. Truthfully, it was just I did not like the way the story went. And there's many people that love it and respect that is your opinion, and there's many people that agree with me in that. And there were actually a lot of things about The Last Jedi that I loved, in fact. I loved the building tension between Rey and Kylo Ren. While I didn't like that they killed Snoke off so quickly and we didn't that just ended up being kind of a dead end. I did like that the movie ended with Kylo Ren being the one who is now supreme leader. You know, in the original trilogy, we always got that kind of hinted at with Vader, constantly offering to Luke, "Hey, together we can overthrow the Emperor. Together we can rule the galaxy." There's always that tension that Vader wanted to overthrow the Emperor and rule the galaxy for himself. So it's kind of cool. I kind of enjoyed in The Last Jedi that we got to see what that would look like. The apprentice overthrowing their master and ultimately being the one ruling. So I liked that aspect of it. Uh, but For the most part, there were some things, particularly with Luke Skywalker, that I did not love. And if you ask anyone that wasn't a big fan of The Last Jedi, most people are going to respond with something along the lines they did not like what they did to Luke's character. And Rian Johnson addresses that in this interview. So, jumping down in a major new Empire interview, Rian Johnson looks back at The Last Jedi for its fifth anniversary. Reflecting with a few years' distance, he says, I'm even more proud of it 5 years on. He says, when I was up at bat, I really swung at the ball. The film, he says, is not just a Star Wars movie, it's a movie about Star Wars and what it means to fans, himself included. I think it's impossible for any of us to approach Star Wars without thinking about it as a myth that we were raised with and how that myth, that story baked itself into us and affected us. So, okay, right off the bat, a big part of that myth is the character and the hero of Luke Skywalker. So, I think that's right off the bat, you accomplished that in that you did address the myth of Star Wars and the hero that so many of us were raised with. You're right in that. But part of why so many people have had negative reaction is because of what was done with that hero that so many were raised with. The ultimate intent was not to strip away, the intent was to get to the basic fundamental power of myth. This is where I think this interview and this response gets a little vague to me. I wish, and perhaps the full article when it's released in the magazine will kind of show what he really means here and what he thinks the fundamental power of this myth was. But anyways, he goes on. Ultimately, I hope the film is an affirmation of the power of the myth of Star Wars in our lives. That extends to its controversial depiction of Luke Skywalker. Okay, so this is kind of what I want to focus this video on and really where I had some thoughts. So that extends to its controversial depiction of Luke Skywalker as a hermit who's closed himself off from the Force, having sensed darkness in his nephew Ben Solo and accidentally pushed him further toward the dark side as Kylo Ren. But as much as Luke begins the film in a very different place from than when we left him at the end of the original trilogy. So triumphant, fresh Jedi Knight who has just played a key role in overthrowing the Emperor. And while much of the galaxy believes that he killed Darth Vader, that's not what happened. We all know that. But that's the legend of Luke Skywalker now, is that he is the one who defeated the Emperor and Darth Vader. That's where we left him, a triumphant hero who rose from being a farm boy to becoming a Jedi Knight who would ultimately restart the Jedi Order. So very different place at the end of the original trilogy. His arc over the course of The Last Jedi, ending in his death and the birth of a new Skywalker legend. Okay. Well, that's where it gets weird because then we get the next movie and we're shown that it's not a Skywalker legend we have, it's a Palpatine legend. Anyways, Ray Skywalker. Eh, my biggest issue with the whole Ray calling herself a Skywalker, like I actually wouldn't have had an issue with Ray Skywalker if it wasn't for the fact that it she had a whole conversation with Leia and Luke in that very movie where they basically said it doesn't matter who you were, it doesn't matter the blood that you have going through you, it doesn't matter your name, like you can create your own destiny. So for me, it kind of when she said I'm Ray Skywalker, to me it seems like she was undoing that and saying, "Oh, but my name does matter. I know you said it didn't matter, but it does matter. I'm a Skywalker, not a Palpatine." Anyway, so new Skywalker legend sees him. So it the end of the film sees him become a galactic symbol of hope and rebellion once more. The final images of the movie to me are not deconstructing the myth of Luke Skywalker, they're building it, and they're him embracing it. The director explains they're him absolutely defying the notion of throw away the past and, in fact, embracing what actually matters about his myth and what's going to inspire the next generation. So, for me, the process of stripping away is always in the interest of getting to something essential that really matters. Something essential that really matters. He could be describing The Last Jedi himself. So this is kind of the right here, for me. This is where I had some thoughts, and some thoughts where I actually see where Ryan Johnson is coming from, and some thoughts where I want to push back a little bit. So he talks about the final images of the movie are not deconstructing the myth of Luke Skywalker. So at this point in the galaxy, the myth of Luke Skywalker is the legendary Jedi Master who defeated the Emperor and defeated Darth Vader and rebuilt the Jedi Order. He was the most powerful being in the galaxy. We saw that even in the finale of The Mandalorian season 2. We saw the fear in Moff Gideon's eyes when he recognized a Jedi, and well, the most prominent Jedi at the time would have been Luke Skywalker. You read through Legends material and a lot of canon material as well, even Shadow of the Sith that recently came out, and that's the most recent Luke Skywalker centered canon novel. Luke is legendary because he is the Jedi who essentially won the Galactic Civil War. That's the legend, the myth of Luke Skywalker, um, that Ryan explains he's building into. He says they're him absolutely defying the notion of throw away the past and embracing what actually matters about his myth and what's going to inspire the next generation. So of course the end of The Last Jedi ends with Luke showing up while projecting himself, which is kind of a bummer. I think that that would have been such a more powerful scene if he physically showed up. But it ends with him showing up and buying time for the small amount of the resistance that was left to escape. He gives them some hope that they can get out of there. Or at least that's what they're trying to portray. But here's where my pushback is. I see what was being attempted in Luke making a great sacrifice so that the resistance, so that rebellion could live on. I see that. It's even you even get a little bit of a parallel to Ben Kenobi sacrificing himself on the Death Star so that Luke could see the power of the Force, so that Luke could see um, some hope. Eh, There's a little bit of parallel there, um, different circumstances, but here's where it gets me. By the time we get to the Rise of Skywalker, there isn't a lot of anchorage on the hope of Luke Skywalker. Um, there are not a lot of moments. Maybe Ray and Leia talk about Luke a little bit, and maybe there's a little bit of passing reference to Luke, but it felt a little lackluster in the amount of hope that the Resistance actually placed in Luke's sacrifice. It almost was like, okay, a couple days, a couple weeks has passed. Who was Luke again? The guy that sacrificed himself so that we could continue on in the fight against the First Order. We don't get a lot of callback to this great sacrifice that Luke makes. So that's where, to me, I see the attempt of let's have Luke sacrifice himself, and that will be the hope for the rebellion or the resistance. But it just felt lackluster in that. So there's the cover of the magazine. Yeah, so read Empire's full 5-year anniversary interview with Ryan Johnson. I don't know. Maybe there weren't any really coherent thoughts in here. I just wanted to look through this and give my thoughts on Luke Skywalker from Ryan Johnson's perspective. Ultimately, I respect those who enjoyed The Last Jedi and the sequel trilogy. And there are parts of the sequel trilogy that I really do love. So I don't want this to be a negative video. This is just, I mean, it's a relatively big piece of Star Wars news for Ryan Johnson to give some input on The Last Jedi 5 years later after being relatively quiet about it. Um, it felt like a big enough deal that I wanted to share some thoughts. And ultimately, if you take anything away from this video, it's that um, my biggest the biggest flaw to The Last Jedi and the sequel trilogy to me is not that they killed Luke Skywalker, and it's not even that they sent him off into exile, and completely switched his character around. I don't love that he ran and hid. I don't love that there was the temptation to kill Ben Solo because he sensed a little darkness in him. He was willing to let Darth Vader pretty much kill him because he sensed a little bit of good in Darth Vader. So that feels so contrary to me. But my ultimate takeaway here is that I get the idea to play in and build into the myth and the power and the legend of Luke Skywalker by what seems like the goal was to turn him into a big beacon of hope for the resistance, but it just doesn't seem that that execution was on par with what it should have been. It feels like they fell a little bit of short going into the Rise of Skywalker and even ending the Last Jedi. That being said, I'd love to hear your comments. Let me know in the comments below. What did you think of these thoughts from Rian Johnson? Does it give you a little bit of insight? Does it leave you a little bit more confused about his process of The Last Jedi? Because ultimately that's where I'm at. But let me know in the comments below. Keep it civil. Obviously, this is a divisive, controversial topic in Star Wars. So I'm all for respectful discourse and sharing opinions, whether you like something or not. But I'm not here for trashing on somebody because they have a different opinion. So, anyways, I hope you have a great day and stay tuned. I'm going to be doing some giveaways here on the channel soon. More info on that in the next fanfic. So, have a great day and may the force be with you.